That Farmers Relief has board suspends new milk rules. Offenders risked being fined 500,000 shillings. I just want to take a look at that. Milk bar owners were to pay 3,000 shillings in annual fees. Mini dairy and dispensers, 6,000. Cottage industry, 4,000. Processor license handling, 100,000. Below 100,000 litres per day were to pay 25,000 shillings, while those above 100,000 litres per day was to be 50,000. Distributors fee was 25,000. Now we hear that this has been postponed or suspended. What is the genesis of this? Why do we need to do this?
Okay, I think that's the job of the Dairy Board, to set up regulations regarding the dairy industry. But these regulations, I think, were at discussion level. There was so much uproar that they've actually withdrawn, and I'm glad that they have withdrawn the regulations, because the regulations are actually ridiculous. Whoever was making these regulations obviously doesn't know how people operate. How do you expect a woman in the countryside who produces 2 liters of milk and sells that milk to feed her family for that day, to walk to a very long distance or transport it by boda, she lose all the money in the transportation to take it to the nearest nearest cooling plant. So first of all, it's not workable. What you're actually doing is impoverishing people and killing the dairy industry. The only people you'd be promoting are the big processors. But remember, it's not the processors that run the economy. It's actually the selling the milk day to day in the shopping centers. If you look at a case of Eldoret, the people who live in the farms come to sell to those who live in the city center. First of all, they get a better price when they sell their raw milk than when they sell it to KCC or Brookside or the other processing companies. So and that is actually their livelihood. That's how they feed their families. That's how they raise their kids. Right. If the Dairy Board really wanted to look at this challenge of unsafe milk, that was not the way to go around it. First of all, there is even milk that is sold in packets. The milk that we buy in the supermarket. They don't demand that the processor declares that this is from reconstituted milk and that was not made directly from raw milk. So there are even things that the processors do wrong, but we're not putting any pressure on the processors. This was looking like a penal code against the small-scale farmer. In fact, I've never seen more ridiculous regulations. If you don't do this, you'll pay this much fine. In fact, it's a joke, and sometimes there's no point. If you say that they will have to pay 500,000 if they sell the milk at the road, you think those people can afford 500,000 shillings? These are people who live on 100 shillings a day. So it's, I'm glad that they have withdrawn them. But luckily for the public, these regulations have to come to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, which I chair. But what that committee would do is listen to people's views also. Anyone can be able to come and submit on those regulations. So I don't think they were going to see the light of day in any case. And you must remember that other countries, like in the UK, in Scotland, they don't sell raw milk because of the economy and the way the country functions. But in England, you're allowed to sell raw milk provided you put that information out that this is raw. This is raw milk. This is raw milk. Okay. And also when we talk about the whole food, and I'm hoping the Agriculture and Food Authority in Kenya can be able to handle this. Because some of the food that is imported into the country is more dangerous than our raw milk. Right. So if we are talking about public health, can we start looking at all these fruits that we bring from overseas that is waxed full of pesticide and so on? We should be looking also at what the type of pesticide that we're allowing farmers to use on our so by the way, milk is not the most dangerous thing in this country. Okay. We are eating far more dangerous items.
If the rules were approved, what would have this done to Kenya's family income?
It would have killed, actually, I can say in Uasin Gishu, you'd have impoverished maybe 90% of the families in Uasin Gishu.
Dr. Chris? I think the most important thing is to understand what is the gist of the regulations. The gist of these regulations is to prohibit farmers from selling the raw milk. If we are found selling the raw milk, there are penalties. And why? It's because this was driven more of the processors, that your milk must be processed for purposes of value addition and for purposes of hygiene before it's consumed. Now, in this case, the implication is when you have a farmer in Uasin Gishu or in Trans Nzoia, where I come from, or in Murang'a or Homa Bay, when you have your 2-3 liters of milk, you should not consume that. You should take it to the processor to process that milk, so that that milk can be value added, so that it can be yogurt, it can be cheese, or it can be even the one for making tea.
Okay.
So the net effect is, as you want to do value addition, we don't have these processors. As Mheshimiwa has clearly put it, you'll be taking your milk, and there's that risk. You know, milk is, the shelf life is very short. It must go to the processor immediately. They don't have coolants. So that you take it to Brookside, or you take it to KCC, or you take it to Limuru Dairy for purposes of processing. So the implication is the farmer will incur more costs. And in the process, of course, the milk will go bad. And when it comes to the economy, you are selling this for you to buy foods or to pay school fees, it will be curtailed. So these regulations, regulations are supposed to be bottom up. But in this case, I think they are being pushed by the processors. The common mwananchi was not involved. That's why public participation is very critical. And for those regulations to take effect, okay, they can take effect, but they must come through the committee that Honorable Sholei chairs. And you've done very well, Mheshimiwa Sholei, that committee. I should commend you for that. So this was shortcut, and we thank God it has been rejected.
All right, Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege, you come from a county that is involved in milk production, quite a bit of it. So when you look at the market, the milk market, do we have such a situation of so much poisoning from milk that would warrant that we need to block people consuming raw milk? And then number two, how do we progress to the point of that we want to embark on manufacturing, processing of this milk for value addition and better returns to everyone involved in the cycle?
I think for the Kenya Dairy Board, what they did, it was a good idea, but the implementation was wrong. One thing I'll tell you for sure is that we need to look at the health of our people and the gist of the matter and on the milk that is hawked. I think every morning you'll find matatus coming in town with some jerry cans, and that one is milk actually is able to tap germs very fast. It's very poisonous. There's also a lot of ATMs that are all over, even in our supermarkets. We don't know whether that milk is processed, whether they mix with chemicals so that then they're able to, you know, milk, you cannot sustain raw milk for a very long time. But at the village level, as Honorable Sholei said, you wake up in the morning. I used to go to my neighbors with like a small bottle, and I'm able to buy, and that we consume that milk that morning. So the first thing that Kenya Dairy Board need to do is do the capacity building for our farmers. Of course, we cannot say we cannot sell raw milk, and especially at that village level. But we have to classify and look at the levels. When somebody has to transport milk from Murang'a to Nairobi, how do you transport it? Will you still put it on the rooftop of the matatu? And what kind of, even the condition, the containers. Because some of them, even cleaning those containers, it is actually more risky than even the money those people are making. It will cost more to the nation. So they need to approach it in a very sober way. I don't know why they first came up with the regulations without doing the public participation. They have said they first wait for the public participation. It would have started from the bottom, as the Honorable Wamalwa said, go to the public, do capacity building, train them, then after that, then implement. And I think this is a problem that we are seeing with the government, including even trying to look at the things that are coming to the country, you know, through the port. You cannot just wake up one day, and I saw there was also an announcement again about the woven bags. You cannot wake up in the morning and say, if from next month we are banning. You know, it is not possible. You must involve people. There are people who had even gone out, they had made those bags. Some kind of containers already or coming. People have already bought, and this have been approved by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics. They have Kenya Bureau of Standards. They have already, the KEBS, they have already approved them. People have paid for their taxes and everything else. Then one day somebody wakes up in the morning and decides, we want to ban. And even trying to ban, you must give people time, educate people, give people time. And the same approach has been taken now with by Kenya Dairy Board. Go to the farmers, do capacity building, then come up with the regulation.
Ladies, before you can comment, we have a caller before they cut. This is Migwa. You're calling in from Bere. Good morning. Migwa? All right, we seem to have already lost him.
I just want to weigh in on that point on the issue of regulations.
She's been too quiet.
Yeah, because Chege, already spoke on the matter. So yes. I mean, I also wanted to just weigh in on this. I think it's good debate for the dairy sector. It's a debate we haven't had. Now we are having it because of the regulations that were, because, the regulations were proposed, and now it's good that we're having the debate. When you sell your milk raw, you probably sell it at far less money than you would if it was processed. So
no, it's the other way around.
No. You sell it at 25% to almost 50% less than if you were selling it processed. I mean, that's that's
okay. I'll give you a very good example.
Normal logic.
I'll give you an example. The processor buys milk currently at 26 shillings
a litre.
Yes. If you go and sell it to the milk ATMs in Eldoret town or the others, you can sell it for 60 shillings. If you go to the densely populated parts of the town and go and sell it directly, you'll get 60 shillings. That's why the small-scale farmer prefers to take and remember, they prefer to take their milk directly to sell it to the and then also it's immediate. It's a cash business. And then also those who are buying your milk are getting more value, because remember, by the time you get the milk that is processed, they've taken out the butter fat to make butter, which they sell for 1,000 shillings, by the way, a piece. And then after that, they get they get out the cheese and yogurt and so on.
And Gladys, boss, let me make this point.
Okay.
Anytime you sell your product raw, and when you value add your product, it is more value to you as the seller than when you sell your product before processing it. I mean, it is common logic. If I sell my fish without processing it, from Homa Bay, and we do fish farming. If I sell my fish without processing it, I get less for that fish than if I processed it. Because if I processed it, I would sell the skin separately. I sell the mondo, separately. I sell and it's the most expensive part of the fish. But when I sell the fish, somebody will just give me 30 bob. But if I remove that the good part of it and sold it separately, it would be much more. So if farmers, and this is research proven, if farmers were to process their milk, and this is not to say that the regulations were right, but to say that if we were to help our farmers at county levels to have storage, to have processing, and this is, I think Moranga tried, and some counties have tried, even we saw Uasin Gishu. I think there are a lot of USAID funded programs to help farmers process their milk so that they sell it when it's already processed. But before that is done, you cannot introduce the regulations we are trying to introduce.
Listening to the two of you, Gladys and Gladys, what comes out is that...
Gladys and Gladys.
Boss and Gladys. She's the boss, that's why she talks much more.
This is a topic I'm very passionate about. I'm a dairy farmer, so I take this very...
Let me just make the point. You speak of value addition. Maybe for the fish, the value you get comes back to you as a farmer. But for the farmer, once you release your milk, it's gone and gone forever. Even if you value it, it doesn't come back to you. So the question
is... What I was referring to here, there is an opinion on the on that nation. Statistics from the Dairy Board show that raw milk sold informally to neighbors, mainly in rural settings, is 20 to 50% cheaper than the processed product.
So that's what I'm asking. What do we do? What do we do to ensure that, yes, you can process and boost the manufacturing sector, but also that value comes back to the farmer?
Yes, and that's why we're saying with these regulations, what should have happened, there should have been a gradual development towards ensuring that people process milk. The first step they must do, and that's what I'm saying, is that the Dairy Board did not have this in context. And I'm talking from, I'm a dairy farmer, first of all. I have been raised on dairy throughout my life. I am an authority in how dairy works in the country, and especially in Uasin Gishu. What they should have done is said they should now start a program where they encourage counties to have small processing plants for the smallholder farmers. Make that a process for a couple of years, and see that it started working before you start imposing these new rules where they have no basis to do it.
And that was the exact point I was making.
And then the other issue is they must remember milk. When also people talk about milk, if I carry milk today from Uasin Gishu to Nairobi, I can immediately come and boil it. If it has gone bad or in contact with bacteria, it goes sour immediately. So we have our own traditional methods of knowing how to preserve milk. Why are they making it sound like it's only the processor that knows how to do it? My people have been
how do we ensure that knowledge translates to better returns?
By the way, that knowledge is existing and is currently being used. And we must ask ourselves...
So you don't have a problem in the dairy sector?
No. I agree that it's going forward, it is a good thing to do.
Okay.
But you cannot suddenly impose the regulations. You must be able to give them alternatives. When we talk about the farmer, I know that counties have been building cooling plants across the counties.
Even the Ministry of Agriculture
have been putting counties. But let me tell you what is happening. What the cooling plant does is farmers take their milk, they take it to the cooling plant, and it is stored there for the processor to come and collect. In fact, the only person who benefits is the processor. Our people don't get a better price because of the cooling plants. In fact, I told people...
Well, I think that is another misleading point. You know...
allow me. Let's listen to David Okumu from Kisumu. David, good morning. What's your question or comment?
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, this is David Okumu from Kisumu.
Yes, Okumu.
Yes, I'm a milk vendor. I've done this business for 10 years. What we have seen, this is monopoly. There's somebody somewhere who want to do this business alone. Because in our area, which is Ahero Umbei, been collecting milk from the farmers. They want giving the at least most liters is giving 20 liters. The others is just 1.5 to 2 liters. The cooling plant is built at Moroni. And you expect this person giving out 1 liter to take his milk to Moroni. From our area to Moroni, to and fro is 800 shillings.
Okay.
How is that one possible?
Okay, all right. Thank you, David Okumu from Kisumu. He reads, he's quite suspicious, saying that there's someone who wants to monopolize the market. You are making a point.
Yeah, and I was making a point, and David, thank you for that point. My point here is, if David in Ahero Ombei, which is my home, where I was born, if we had a cooling plant at Ahero Ombei, instead of having to go to Moroni to take your milk there, wouldn't it be a better thing for you? And you see, when you have a cooling plant, what you're doing is prolonging the life of the milk. Even if you want to keep your milk and go and continue selling it tomorrow, you as a milk vendor who is Okumu, you want to keep your milk and then sell it again tomorrow. If there is a cooling plant nearby, it's good for you. Instead of this idea of, instead of having to take it to Moroni or wherever else. And so what we are saying is, let us invest. And we are making the exact same point. It is not a divergence. Let us invest in cooling plants. Let us invest in our farmers. Then we introduce the regulations after that investment.
Dr. Chris has really...
Dr. Chris has not spoken about it.
Dr. Chris, go ahead.
Well, these two ladies have really talked about that issue. I think what we need to do, even if we were to cool this milk or were to sell it raw, then I also expect the Kenya Dairy Board to come with the issue about the pricing, because that is a bone of contention. We know when it's rainy season, we are told there's a lot of milk and farmers can be paid as the processors wish. And at some point then the prices goes up. So we should not just look at the way the processing, the storage and everything else, but also the pricing must also be regulated. All
right, so finally you come from a county that grows maize and and maize. There are some politicians who have claimed that it's being treated preferentially, bearing in mind that NCPB is ordered to buy maize at a certain price. So what are your thoughts on how to improve the trade in milk, the farming, the dairy farming? Right?
I represent farmers who grow maize, at the same time dairy farmers. Myself, I'm a dairy farmer. And when you talk of value addition, the rule of thumb is, when there's value addition, obviously the returns on your investments are higher. And we don't reject issues with value addition. But there must be structures in place. And this is what Honorable Sholei is trying to bring across. He's saying, whose benefit? The benefit is the processor. And why the Sabina Chege's issue of pricing comes in, you must regulate the price of milk. When it comes to rainy season, obviously, you have plenty of water. And when you input more water, even when you input more water, you tend to go to the, urinate more. You know that, it's common sense. The same way it happens when it comes to cattle. When you give the ngombes more milk, more water to drink at that time, because there's plenty. Obviously, when it comes to productivity of milk, it is more. So what happens is this. This milk, if it's processed for purposes of value addition, the farmer will benefit. But in this case, we have the middlemen.
Yes.
These are the middlemen people who are benefiting. So what the dairy board will have done, and I've gone to, when you go to Kiambu, you'll find a farmer in Kiambu, in half an acre, the returns are high than the farmer in Kitale who has 10 acres. When you look at the processes of for instance, when it comes to zero grazing, right. Zero grazing, in this case, most of the time, it is expensive, yes, but the cattle are not allowed to walk for a long distance, where they lose in terms of coming to issues of productivity. So what the dairy board should have done, should encourage these farmers to come into circles, cooperatives. So you have the cooperatives. When you collect milk, when you go to Kitunguri, we have Kitunguri Dairy, right. which produces fresher milk. So in that catchment, there's a lot of milk within a short radius. So it is easy when it comes to accessibility of the farmer, and these farmers are the owners of that circle. Okay. So as they take the raw materials, their returns are paid based on the processed products that they get. So the issue here is this: the beneficiaries, they are the middlemen. Okay. If we can form a good framework whereby the middlemen can form circles, they can be the owners of the processors, so that they get the benefits more, and we should regulate the prices. In Trans Nzoia, for instance, when it comes to maize production, we have middlemen coming from Mombasa.
Thank you, Dr.
When I become the governor of Trans Nzoia, I'll not allow anyone to sell maize to an outsider. We want to allow processing to be done, the maize to come out in form of flour for higher returns.
Businessmen might work against your campaign.
No, they invest in Trans Nzoia, not outside.
Thank you so much. I wish you had more time.
Very expensive. I think as you look at those regulations, see how to empower farmers.
Dairy board needs to improve the prices.
Okay.
Pricing. Because the pricing, that's happening.
We are out of time practically, but I didn't know that urinary glands have any relationship with mammary glands, but it's okay. We carry on. So we take a look at some of the feedback that has been coming through on SMS 22422. Or Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. We have that. That is Kisache.
All right. You say good morning. Milk prices are reduced at a time when drought is biting. How is President Kenyatta planning to achieve food security when his own are exploiting dairy farmers? That's an SMS. Let's take a look at another one. Sam?
Chebi from Baringo County, Citizen TV, the milk regulations by KDB were killing small wananchi. Let us avoid such moves to our citizenry, otherwise poverty shall be worse than the current drought. Milk processors schemed this.
Okay, let's take a look at tweets. At the rate at which Kenya is going, I don't think these leaders want any industry to sprout. You can't oppress a primary producer and expect to grow. Look at maize, look at eggs. Agriculture grows industries, but it's never the other way.